Warning: the following video utilizes copyright fair use notice Title 17 U.S. Code sections 107 through 118 of the copyright law. All media in this video is used for the purpose of review and commentary under the terms of fair use. All footage, music, and images used belong to their respective copyright holders. Hello again, I'm Bionic Slime, your online voice for reviews of your choice, and welcome to BS Reviews. Today I take a look at a rather strange anime series, both in design and its production. It started off as a 13-episode TV series, and then got a brief 3-episode OVA that promised to explain some answers left unanswered by the TV series, only to leave viewers with even more questions. This is Jing, King of the Bandits. Also known as King of the Bandits Jing, the series was originally released and dubbed by the extinct ADV Films. The series was directed by Hiroshi Watanabe, director of Hellgirl 3 Vessels, and all of the Slayer specials and movies. The animation was handled by Mitsuki Nakamura, who also served as art director for the You're Under Arrest TV series and Nausicaa Valley of the Wind. It stars the dubbed cast of Joey Hood as Jing, Ron Barry as Kier, and Gary Haddock as Postino. The plot of Jing, King of the Bandits. Jing may appear to be an ordinary young man, but he is in fact secretly known as the Bandit King, the most legendary thief in the world, capable of stealing the most impossible and impregnably guarded treasures known to humanity. Jing travels from town to town with his talking bird Kier, capable of grafting himself onto Jing's arm and blasting energy balls at his opponents. Together, Jing and Kier go where they want and steal what they want, regardless of the security, danger, or elusiveness of the treasure. Whether it's the stars in the skies or time itself, Jing and Kier can steal anything from anyone. Review of the plot. If I wasn't clear enough from the beginning on how strange and weird this series is, let me strongly reiterate it. This is a freaking weird show. From the very beginning of the very first episode, you get taken into this bizarre, weird-ass world where literally anything can appear on screen. You want skeletons driving horse and carriages? You got it. You want snowmen and knights in armor sitting in a hot spring? You got it. You want some guy with a typewriter attached to his head working with a roided-out grandma to steal Pokemon knockoffs that explode if you upset them? You better believe this show has it.
I have nothing to do with this story!
Wow, that was weird.
In a lot of ways, Jing is not a story, but more like a series of random one-shot episodes that follow the same formula. Jing goes to some psychedelic drug-themed town, hears about some impossible treasure or task that no one can achieve, and then he and Kier do their thing, and then start the whole thing over again in the next episode. This is one of those shows where you're not going to find some deep, long, winding storyline connecting everything together at the end. It's just one adventure and then another and so on and so forth. If anyone recalls my review of Kino's Journey, or has seen that anime, you're going to find a lot of similarities between these two series. Both feature young leads that visit strange themed towns and have unusual companions following them. Unlike Kino's Journey, however, Jing possesses an explosively imaginative and colorful world that seems to have no limits on what can happen or what can appear here. Nothing is impossible. You're going to see weirdness and wonders here that will just pop out into your eyeballs with a colorful palette that could put 100 rainbows to shame. I personally usually prefer some kind of underlying storyline in every show I watch, but I have to admit that Jing offers enough visual variety in its stories and designs that it actually works without building towards something bigger. The towns Jing visits never cease to amaze me. There's a Technicolor town, the City of Time, the City of Masks, the Seventh Heaven prison. There's even an island where the ground you walk on actually creates music.
Just what kind of island is this?
They say anyone who really loves music should visit here at least once in their life. Tokuoko is famous for making musical instruments.
What Jing lacks in complexity, it makes up for with plenty of imagination and creativity. So, even if it feels repetitive with Jing and Kier doing the same damn thing every episode, there's plenty of trippy colors and imagery to keep your attention span occupied.
Wow, look at all the pretty lights.
View of the characters. Again, much like Kino's Journey, the series only has two characters that are focused on. Other than Jing and Kier, no one stays for more than a single episode, unless it's a two-parter. Except for Postino, but I'm going to talk about him later on. Jing kind of reminds me of Benjamin Button. Both are rather bland, ordinary people who just happen to have extraordinary things happen in their lives. Jing is a very calm, confident, and cryptic guy who seems to always know exactly what is going on, even if he doesn't appear to give that impression. Kier, however, is much more lively, but his personality is also a lot more cliché. Of course, the fact that he barfs out atomic death bombs after grafting his ribcage onto Jing's arm is certainly not something I'd call cliché. He's this show's answer to the whole dirty old man archetype. Kier is perverted, flirtatious, and he falls in love with literally every single girl within visual range. He's like the bird version of Brock from Pokemon. Speaking of girls, this series has a weird sort of James Bond thing going on by giving Jing a new girl every single episode, and then we never see that girl again after the episode is over. Jing could care less, though, as he's apparently impervious to vaginas and never actually truly connects to any of the girls, which makes it easier to move on to the next Jing girl in the next episode. One thing that's odd, though, is that aside from our two leads, nearly every single character, or Jing girl as they're called, is named after alcohols, wine, or drink-related objects. We got vodka, cognac, vermouth, rosé, goblet, elixir, stir, sherry. Even the episodes themselves are called shots, as in taking a shot kind of shots.
Well, I say we get drunk because I'm all out of ideas.
I never really understood what the whole alcohol naming gimmick had to do with the show, or if it had any deeper meaning. Of course, it could just mean that the writers had to be drunk off their asses in order to concoct half the crazy shit you see in this series.
Find your drunkenness very unappealing.
I am drunk, or I wouldn't be talking to you.
Overall, Jing and Kier play off each other well, and the rotating Jing girls do offer a nice variety of interesting characters. I just sometimes find it disappointing that some of the girls that are more interesting than others, like Rosé and Stir, for example, that they're really good characters that you'd want to learn more about, but because they only stay for one episode, there's no point in getting too invested. They don't stick around long enough to be attached to them. And the same can be said for the show's villains. Since there's no big connecting plot, you get a new bad guy pretty much every other episode, and 90% of them are forgettable and generic. Although, admittedly, Master Gear was probably one of the cooler bad guys worth mentioning. But again, like some of the girls, it would have been nice to see him developed more.
You will now pay for your interruption. I see. It shall read, killed for being late on your tombstone, boy, even if you are only 1/10 of a second late.
Review of the animation and the music. If you've seen my top 12 favorite anime openings videos, you'll know I am a big fan of both this show's music and its animation style. Jing has a visual style that's all its own. Every inch of this series' world and its inhabitants are teeming with original designs and outrageously unique concepts. While you can't really understand what exactly the series is on drug-wise, you can definitely appreciate its visual appeal. Each town is crafted with a sense of eclipsing individuality. The two-parter Clocktown episodes in particular feature some of the most truly amazing visuals. Every show has its weak points and flaws, but being forgettable is definitely not a flaw that Jing suffers from. Once you see the show, you're not going to forget it. Things will just keep on getting weirder, and it will continue to look more and more stunning and stick with you long after the show has ended. Music is really one of the show's finest features. The opening theme is upbeat, catchy, and it gets you simultaneously pumped up and entranced for what's to come. I found the piano softer key edition of the theme song played throughout some of the episodes to be quite beautiful, and just thinking about it makes me want to dig up the soundtrack so I can give it another listen.
I scribbled this in when I was just a kid. I still love you, Daddy. But you were never really happy, Daddy, and I know I never let you forget that.
But I guess now you're getting me back for all of that, aren't you?
I sure do wish you were here.
So is that a memento for you?
He was shot down by a business rival. Ever since then, I've been on a journey to find my father's killer. This is my trail of tears through this godforsaken land.
The ending theme is light, kind of jazzy, but mostly mellow and still pretty catchy. I rarely use the word artistic when describing something because I feel the word gets used for pretentious bullshit that has little meaning or proper application most of the time. However, Jing's music and animation style feels and sounds like art to me, and that to me is just the best way I can explain how I feel about the art and the animation for this anime series. Flaws about the show. As much as I have praised and gone on and on about how wonderful all the weirdness is, the fact of the matter is, from a story standpoint, I have a problem with it. I love seeing cool freaky shit as much as the next person, but no matter what kind of wacko world you're entering, it is always crucial that your weirdness has a point. You cannot just put random things in because it looks cool. You need to have some kind of reason for it being there. Throwing things in without any purpose is just lazy, and it gives a false projection of artistic ingenuity. I mean, it's cool once in a while to see things like three-headed dogs being conducted on a train, but if you keep just throwing whatever the hell you feel like in for no reason, then it seems less like a mentally acceptable world and more like Pee-wee's Playhouse. Most of the problems with this show actually have to do with the main character himself, Jing. I don't like Jing. He's bland, he's boring, and he's an unimaginative, detaching little smartass. The character somehow magically knows every single thing that's going on, even when he's given the most cryptic and transparent of paper-thin clues. Like in this scene, first episode. Here, he meets an old woman who is actually wearing a disguise, and every time he talks to her, no matter how brief, he somehow automatically figured out everything there is to know about her. Right there, right then. Somehow, that smug little asswipe has already solved it, and bam! No sense of surprise or shock. And this happens throughout the entire series. I mean, how can you feel a sense of jeopardy or danger when you have a character that isn't fazed by anything? It doesn't bother me that he's smart and he hides it well. There are a lot of anime characters that hide their wits under a goofy or laid-back persona. But the problem is Jing is far too perfect and all-knowing to the point that all of the dangers and threats in this show barely cause any kind of emotional reaction. There is zero fun to be had with a character that never struggles with their problems. What's worse is that sometimes the solutions Jing instantly comes up with are so full of shit that even the fantasy setting cannot make it sound plausible. One episode, Jing and Kier are being chased by the bad guy Master Gear, who has a talking fox that can hear their heartbeats and uses it to track them and blast them. Now suddenly the bad guys cannot find them anywhere, and here's the reason why.
How'd you like that trick? The two of us synchronized our heartbeats so that you wouldn't be able to, you know.
You serious?
Are you actually using that ungodly brand of idiocy as a valid answer? Even for anime, that is a load of bullshit no one can even passively believe in.
The two of us synchronized our heartbeats.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
How the hell does a person just somehow decide to synchronize their heartbeats with someone else at the drop of a hat? How do you even prepare for that? And even if he did somehow learn to do this ability beforehand, why would you even think of doing that in the first place? Who the hell just honestly thinks that there would ever be any kind of situation where synchronizing heartbeats would be useful? Furthermore, there are tons of things that are left completely unexplained about Jing, and whatever scraps we do get are half-assed pieces of answers that just produce even more questions. For example, mentions this one jewel he has is very precious to him, but he never explains why or where he got it from. In the Seventh Heaven OVA, we see how he first meets Kier, but nothing is explained why he had a metal arm piece, or what it has to do with anything with what his mother mails to him, or how any of it is relevant to him as he got older. Postino, the only other recurring character than Jing and Kier, always manages to find Jing and deliver him a cryptic clue about his current adventure. And yet we don't know how the hell he magically finds Jing, knows exactly what he's doing, and knows what he needs to say to help him on his quest.
Hey, have you heard the word? There's this rumor making the rounds. The double mermaids have a more valuable treasure sleeping inside.
Do you have any idea what he meant by that?
He was a little vague, wasn't he?
'Cause yeah, that makes sense.
This is bullshit.
Look, I know not every character needs to have their backgrounds fully explained, but you have to give people something. Otherwise, why are we giving a shit about this guy? Yeah, the bird shooting laser blasts off his arm is cool and all, but there's got to be something more to him. I originally favored this series over Kino's journey because I felt Kino was too dark and out there to warrant multiple viewings. But after watching Jing, King of the Bandits again, I'm siding with Kino because at least that show's weirdness has more of a point than Jing's weirdness.
Wait a minute! For the love of plums, don't go to that town!
Yeah, nice delivery there, Gramps. Who the hell says for the love of plums, anyway? Final wrap-up. So what did we learn today about Jing, King of the Bandits?
Well, this has been strange.
Yep.
Exactly.
For what it's worth, Jing does have a beautiful animation style that perfectly accompanies and complements all the weird towns, creatures, and colorful characters and costumes. The soundtrack kicks ass, and its visuals are definitely not what I'd call predictable. But there still has to be some kind of method to the madness, otherwise it's worse than madness. It's just crap that makes you mad. Jing offers you plenty to look at, but there's nothing meatier here to sink your teeth into. It's random journeys with characters that hardly give you any reason to be concerned or interested with. We barely know a damn thing about any of these characters, and they're either too perfect or too cliche to be taken seriously. This is a novelty anime. It's a flashy, razzle-dazzle freak show that relies more on trippy imagery rather than taking the time to make something meaningful. The boring characters overstay their welcome, and the genuinely enjoyable ones leave you wanting more. Except you're never truly satisfied because in truth, there really is nothing more to this show. If you want something that's all flash and very little substance, then Jing is a show for you. But if you're gonna be digging through ADV's graveyard for a quality series that is bizarre and legitimately meaningful, Kino's Journey is where the real good stuff is at. Bottom line, I give Jing, King of the Bandits, 2 stars out of 5 stars. Well, that's all for now. This has been Bionic Slime for BS Reviews. Thank you all for watching, and goodbye for now.
That's how you do an evil laugh. Ciao for now.